For those of you guys wondering, that is not an adult beverage. That is some high quality H2O because we've got sickly kids here in the house. So I'm doing my best to stay hydrated and not catch whatever it is that they brought home or wherever they got it from. So that's that. I've kind of got like a little golden rule to myself when it comes to making these videos, all my videos in general, but specifically these like talking head videos, as I call them, where I'm sitting here at the desk just talking to you guys on a microphone. If I'm not like 100% feeling it, I usually just choose not to do it anymore because one of a few things happen. Either I'll do a 1 hour episode and I just listen to 5 minutes of it. The next day I go, I don't like it. I just didn't have any energy or whatever the case is. And I just never posted. And that was just a waste of an hour of my time. Or I start one of these and I get, 20 minutes in and then I just click off and just say that was a waste of 20 minutes of my time. But I'm not really feeling it right now. It's not that I'm not feeling it. I'm just really tired. It's late. I got to be up tomorrow to run a trip. But I was sitting here doing some paperwork and some scheduling. But I said, what the hell? I'm set up. I've got some stuff to talk about. So we're going to try it, see if we get through it. Like I said, this is just going to be kind of like a hodgepodge video. I'm going to talk about the Elite Series event. Going to talk about, give you guys like a fishing report, what's going on with the lake, a couple of other things. So I guess we'll just jump right into it though. The Elite Series event was a good one. Brandon Polinick taking home the win on Lake Okeechobee, which is something I never thought I'd say. Not taking any jabs at Brandon Polinick. I'm a huge Polinick fan for multiple different reasons, which we'll talk about. But I think him himself will tell you that Lake Okeechobee has not been very nice to him in his career. He had a bunch of very, very tough events here, but then he ended up blowing the doors off of this one. And it was super cool to see. It was definitely fun to watch. Big bag of the event, 34-10 he had, which was crazy. I think I touched base on this already in one of my videos. Maybe I didn't. I don't even know if I did like a follow-up video afterwards. I'm not sure. But I was doing some work on my house and putting up some lights when that whole flurry took place. And it was like, right now is a good time to take a lunch break. And I had it on live and was sitting in my golf cart just like glued to my phone. And it was pretty crazy to watch. But just I'm super stoked that he pulled off the victory. Like I said, I'm a Polinick fan, but the word professional, I think, gets thrown around. I don't want to say gets thrown around loosely, but it does. There are a lot of pros in the industry right now. But I don't really think any of them do as good of a job as Brandon Polinick does. He is, I saw a comment, I think it was on Bassmaster, that Mark Zona left, and it said, he is everything that is right in the sport. And I really think that sums it up perfect. He's a very well-rounded angler. He can catch him in a mat. He can catch him on a Nico rig. He can catch him jerk baiting. He can catch him scoping. He can catch him. He doesn't need it. Contrary to what a lot of people were saying, he did not need to use his forward facing, nor did he really even use it in this event to win. He's a very well-rounded angler. He takes the time to talk to all of his fans. He does everything the right way. I mean, if there's a record for rule infractions that are like a record for most time turning yourself in for rule infractions, I guarantee you he's probably at the top. There's a lot of rules that he has broken, but he turns himself in. And when I say rules broken, I'm not talking about information rules or fishing off limits. It's making a cast with a sixth fish in your live well, or being 2 minutes late running in, or whatever it is. But when he does mess up, he does the right thing. And I don't know how you don't like the dude. He just seems like a super cool guy. Had his family there with him. So I went to the weigh-in. It was super cool to see him win. One thing about the weigh-in, there was a ton of people there. Like me and Breezy and the kids drove up there. I'm like, there's going to be 11 people here. And holy hell, I mean, Scott Driver boat ramp was packed. It was a really cool turnout. It was really cool to see, my home body of water have a good turnout for the weigh in. There was a few vendors, a few booths, stuff like that. But the weigh in itself was kind of uneventful because he had such a big lead going in. We all pretty much knew it was a done deal. And then come to find out, he did not even have to fish on the final day. That's how much of a lead he had. So, but either way, awesome for him. Looks good on Lake Okeechobee, all that stuff. Kind of. Some people are saying it doesn't. It does and it doesn't. It does. For the rest of the world, for us locals, there was one thing that a lot of us didn't like is that all of these guys were, for the most part, fishing in the rivers and canals around the lake. No one was really out on the main body of water. Some were. I shouldn't say none of them were. A lot of them were. And everyone's going to say, oh, well, it's sad that all the big bags are coming from the river, and that is true, and they did. But there were plenty of fish caught out on the lake as well. And you got to remember that the conditions just, with the state of the lake anymore, the conditions just lined up better for the river. There was just no altering of the fish due to the weather conditions in those areas. I talked to a few elite pros that fished the lake. And, going into the final day, I kind of was telling people, Jason Christie, where he was fishing, he had a chance to do something crazy. And I kind of thought going into the final day of the event that Brandon's fish were going away. That whole scenario was kind of going away. But I thought someone like Jason Christie, not that he might pull up and win the event, but if you were going to see a big push on the final day, someone catching a giant bag, I thought Jason Christie was in the best spot and set up the best and doing the best technique to have that happen. He had like 3 pounds. But the way he was fishing, and I don't know if he even knows it, right? He's not a local down here, but he was, if they were coming, and I think there was a wave of fish. There was a wave of fish pulling out, but I think we kind of had another wave starting to pull up as well, because I was out there, guiding. I'm not around those guys at all, but there were certain little things I was picking up on. I'm like, man, there's some fish there's fish leaving, but there's fish coming too. And where Jason was fishing, I'm like, man, things could get crazy there real quick. Or he could have a Brandon Polinick moment where he flips those reeds and makes 20 flips and he catches 35 pounds in 20 flips. And that's what I thought might happen for him. I'm a huge Christie guy. I was hoping it would, but it didn't work out for him. But people caught him in the lake. I ran into Lee Livesey on the water on his final day and had customers with me. And we were done fishing. I said, you guys care if I just pull down here and watch this dude fish for a little bit? They're like, no. Then they kind of figured out who he was. And I just yelled over to him, you got him? He said, no. Catching a bunch, but just no weight. And obviously, I'm not giving him any information or anything. I specifically told my customers as well, like, listen, do not hold up a rod with a bait on it, nothing, And but he was telling me, he's like, man, I caught 100 bass right here yesterday, and I think he had 19, almost 20 pounds. But he said, I'm realistically caught 100 bass, and it was in an area that I had been guiding, and we had been catching a lot of numbers of fish. We had never caught close to 20 pounds out of there, so that was really cool. But he told me he had a 4 and a 7.5 pounder. So he'll have it all on YouTube. I'm really excited to watch that video. Excuse me, that video. But other than him, I didn't hear of people getting a ton of bites, especially in the lake. But there were fish being caught in the lake. But that spot that Brandon and those 4 guys shared, I think I probably hinted at it in one of my last videos. There's a few guys that have been fishing around there. I call him North End Bobby. A lot of you, Bobby Dupuy. I just pronounced his name wrong, didn't I? Dupree. great fisherman. He had a 35.5 pound bag out of there a couple weeks ago with a 10 pounder. My buddy Tanner and my buddy Finn, I think I plugged this as well. They were kind of fishing those fish, along with, I'm sure, other people. These are just people that I know about. And at the time, those same fish were doing different stuff. Um, they were doing kind of a different deal. And the fish moved. Now, maybe when Brandon found them, I think when he found them, they were set up the way they were set up now. But those fish were spawning on the banks, and they were doing it all up and down the canals, all up and down the lake. Um, that was kind of the weird pattern that I was hinting at. I think that pattern is kind of going away, but there was a big wave of fish spawning on basically on like hard banks, and by the time the Elite Series guys got here, that pattern had kind of been beat to death. But I think what happened where they were is those same fish just pulled off the bank and they went deep. And then obviously, these guys found them out there. What's crazy is, I mentioned that they weren't really using forward facing. They were, but it was almost just a scan to see if they were there. They were not staring at the screen because they couldn't. The fish were very erratic from what I heard. They were moving around. And I think, some of them were eating big gizzard shad, but I think a lot of them were eating crappie. When you're talking fish that big, 7.5, 9.5 pounds, I think they were down there eating crappie, and that's why Brandon was catching them on those bigger crankbaits. He caught on a multitude of baits, but that one real big crankbait got him some big bites. And, that's the bait that he was giving to his fellow competitors on live, which was crazy to watch also. But I think that was kind of the deal. I talked to a competitor or an Elite Series guy afterwards while they were off the water. Off limits was done. Just call they just wanted to know what I thought about the event. And he told me that he talked to Polinick, and Polinick, I think it was something like, hey, you think you could do it again tomorrow? And he told him there were hundreds of bass like that swimming around down there. Now, when I say I thought that was going to go away, I thought a portion of those fish would kind of just naturally pull out, but you have 4 boats fishing them. It's not a big area. Plus you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spectator boats floating around. It's just a lot of boat pressure that's not typically sitting there. And although it is deep water, I figured that might have a little bit of a, would kind of alter how those fish were set up. And that's why I thought it might kind of go away, which it looks like it did. But the fact that he said there, and I believe it, I really do, just because of where that is, it makes sense. And we all know, right? He was in the Kissimmee River, and I had a lot of people asking me, like, why are those fish there? Do you think, what's going on? And there's a few different things, right? Everyone asks me, are those all release fish? And listen, at some point, right, that 9-pounder, Brandon, both those 9-pounders, Brandon Polinick weighed in, they very well could have been release fish, but they might have been release fish from 7 years ago. Those might have been 1.5 pounders someone ran from Pelican Bay all the way across the lake and weighed in a BFL and were released in the river. They could have been 6-pounders that were released. They could be not released fish at all. They could be fish that were born in that river. But what I tell people is a bass has to have a reason to move. So whether they're born there or if they're brought in from the lake, right? You take a 5-pounder that spent its entire life on the shoal of Lake Okeechobee. The rough water beats them up. The water gets muddy anymore, and you let it go in a 20-foot deep, clean river with hard bottom loaded with bait. Why are they going to leave, right? So I think there is, and I've always said it, there are the biggest bags of fish the biggest bags around are in the river. The biggest fish are in the river. The lake record bass was 15 pounds. That came out of Taylor Creek. Those deep water dredged canals are where the giants are. More giants are going to be concentrated in there because of the deep water, because of the stable conditions, and it's loaded with bait. So they've always been in there. Now, what's happening is because of the condition of the lake, right? We all know, 95 pounds is it's a crazy fishery. The big ones live here, but the big ones can't get comfortable anymore a lot of times on the lake, especially when it comes to spawning. We don't have hard lines. We don't have submerged grass. We don't have all that stuff thanks to our awesome federal government and, FWC and Army Corps of Engineers, which sounds completely backwards. You got states like Texas that are just making every puddle in the state bass fishing meccas. And then we have bass fishing meccas here, like Lake Okeechobee, and then the state just does everything in their power to absolutely destroy it and make it horrible, which is insane. But anyway, the big fish still live here, so they can't do what they want to do on 95% of the lake, especially when the conditions line up, right? That's why when you have ideal conditions for a couple days, the lake pops off, pops off. But when you have what we're dealing with right now, which we'll get into after we get done talking about the Elite Series thing, that's why I think these fish are setting up like this. Like I talked to Gary Milicevic about it and stuff, and they're like, well, let's just say half of those fish have always been in these rivers and spawned in these rivers and done this. But then you have another half, you have an additional count of fish moving in there because they can't find the clean water and the ingredients they need to spawn. And I think that's what's pushing them up into this stuff. The other thing, and this is, kind of you don't know which is more true. The other thing is you have more people fishing in these canals, in these rivers and stuff more than you ever did. A, because of forward-facing sonar, it works much better in that scenario. And B, because there's so much unfishable water on the actual lake itself. So boats are pushing back into these canals, looking for stable, clean water, fishing it with a mindset of, well, I ain't finding anything out there. Everything's muddy, so I might as well give this an honest try. You catch an 8-pounder. Oh my gosh, I caught a big one. You get confidence, start fishing it, and it exposes what's really there. These giant bags have always been in the river. I remember when we had the Nick Kaler Memorial Tournament. I think, and I might be wrong. We have 8 bags over 30 pounds. I know Kale and Chris Sherling won it with like 38 and a half. But I know that there was like a 36 and 235s, and both of those came cranking the river. And that was back in 2015, something like that, 16. I don't have to tell you. There's giants to be caught in the rivers. All the surrounding canals, the rim canals and stuff. There's big ones in there. But now with the help of electronics, people wanting to learn that style of fishing, there's more boats than ever targeting them and giving them an honest try. And the lake is muddy, so especially during this event. So there's more boats in there, and I think it just sets up better. So that's why I think those fish were there. But I think they're always there. I think it was the perfect scenario. They were set up. And, like Brandon said, the reason he went there is he caught a 6 and a 2-pounder there in practice. But he had such a bad practice. He said, that's where I'm going to start. Well, you show up there. There's 3 other boats. Oh, maybe this is something good. One of the guys catches a 5-pounder. You catch a 6-pounder. All those 4 boats get confidence. They stay still. They fish. And it exposes what it really is. You always fish better like that. I always say you can't catch somebody else's fish. But you can if you go there and right off the bat something cool like that happens, right? Like if someone gives you an area and you go there and you're like, oh, is he talking about these pads or is it these pads? And he said a frog, but is it a white frog or is it a killer gill frog or is it a popping frog at all? Am I supposed to be further back? And then you're fishing and you're shuffling, you're like, and you spin out because you don't know all the details. They're not your fish, like, you know what I mean? And you leave. Whereas if you roll in there, like, I think he's talking about these, I don't know, and you throw in there and you catch an 8-pounder, okay, deep breath, like they're here and you fish better. I'm not saying that he got information or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, when there's other boats there, it gives you a kind of like, like maybe these guys aren't here for no reason. Like Kelly always says, they're not fishing there because it looked good. They're fishing there because they got bit there in practice, and they got must have been a significant bite too. So I don't know. There were probably multiple other areas in the lake that could have happened on, and there were some people on them, that just didn't get the giant bites or whatever happened. So we'll roll right from that. Again, congrats. I know Brandon Polinick's not watching this, but congrats, Brandon Polinick. I mean, just keep being you. Keep your, like I said, he's on the younger side. So I still consider him a younger angler, and there's a lot of the youth in the sport that look up to him, and I just think he's someone that we need to be highlighting in the industry because he just does everything right. You don't hear a bad thing about the guy, which is rare anymore. So huge congrats to him. Very well deserved. Fishing report. It's freaking windy. That's your fishing report. I could just move on from there. But in all seriousness, like this wind's been killing me. Like it's almost put me into like a depression. It sounds ridiculous, but I mean, I know I sound like a broken record, but it couldn't show you that it's more true. Since the hurricanes came through in October, this wind has not quit blowing. It just hasn't. And what's making it even worse than that is it is just rotating every week. We're getting a big blow from the southeast, then out of the northwest, then dead out of the east at 25. Then we get a front from the northwest at 35. And it is just swirling this water again because this lake's been sprayed to death and the high water is, and all the powers that be have just, they're trying their best, I swear, to take this place down. But it's muddying so much. And let's just say it's not muddy because there's a really specific way you have to understand this. Like, you might come down here to fish a Tuesday and Wednesday and be like, what are you talking about? The wind? It's 0 mile an hour wind for 2 days. And that could be true these 2 days, but the 2 days before it blew 35 sustained for 2 straight days. And the damage is already done. So the wind does quit blowing. It doesn't quit blowing long enough for the lake to ream the effects of it, of the cleaning up water. What was it? 3-4 weeks ago when we had that, we had the stable, we had the no wind, we had the warm up, we had it. You saw what happened. We had these crazy bags, we had the big fish being caught, and more importantly than the big bags being caught, they were caught all around the lake. Like, there were fish being caught everywhere. And that's the big thing. Like, that's what us anglers, like, that's what we're trying to show, and we're trying to preach to whoever it is that wants to listen, the state. It's like Brandon Polinick did catch 34 pounds, 10 ounces. He did. It's amazing. The bass still live here. But he won it off that spot, and like the weights really dropped down or what have you. But when you're running down the lake and you run 12 miles and don't see a boat, and then you pull into a pocket and there's 55 boats on a pocket, that's not the signs of a healthy lake. You can look at the numbers and you can look at the fish in the lake are healthy. I don't know how to even say this without sounding dumb, but like the big fish still do live here, but you're almost putting 50 boats on a spot is not helping them either, right? Because we're beating on them so bad. And it's because you're altering their behavior in a sense, by removing all the vegetation, the high water, the muddy water. They don't want to be in that either. So it just concentrates everybody. Whereas with the lake lowering, which is definitely going to help, but when you get those stable conditions, it just, everything cleans up, everything gets, and you got people like in the Toyota series that were fishing. I mean, I'm not going to name areas. There were people catching fish in places there haven't been fish caught in like 12, like literally a year, literally. But it's because the conditions lined up perfectly. Well, the conditions aren't always lined up perfectly. So that's the problem. So it's been windy. I was off today. I did not go fishing. I wanted to go fishing. I said, I'm not even doing it. I'm going to stay home, take care of some stuff, some business stuff. because it's blowing, well, and it was blowing 35 mile an hour. But even if it wasn't, it's been blowing so hard all week. A lot of these areas are just muddy still. Now, with that being said, we are still catching fish. You got to move and groove. You got to make your bites count. Like, I'm preaching it to my guys, like, listen, I'm not saying you're going to have a horrible day. I'm not saying you're going to have a phenomenal day, but you need to, it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be really on fire. So, like, there's big ones around. They're doing this. You need to be ready. You need to capitalize. When you get a bite, it could very well be a big one. Took my buddy Mike out the other day, went to a stretch. I said, we're probably going to get 2 bites from here, but if you get one, they're going to be big. Caught one right around 7 pounds. Awesome. The most insane frog bite I've ever seen. I've seen some crazy frog explosions in my life. Nothing's even, this one was in a category of its own. It was insane. I almost brought the GoPro. I almost brought it and I did not. And I still kicking myself. It was the craziest frog bite I've ever seen. So that was cool. Yeah, we're getting shots at some good ones. Ran a trip the next day. A gentleman named Glenn. Glenn, if you're watching, had an awesome day with you, man. Again, I do need to go through those GoPro clips and send some to you. I'll get that. I haven't forgot about you. So, and he had a shot at a couple decent ones. They just came off. Wasn't absolutely nothing he did wrong. Just spawning fish, eating it funny. But there are good ones around. You're having to fish around some boats. You're having to kind of outfish other recreational anglers, other guide boats, because the areas are kind of small. Timing's been a big thing. But there are big fish being caught, obviously. You're just having to really work for it and fish the same stretches and areas or fish real slow for a longer time than we typically would. But she's dropping. As of today, she's 1362. The lake is coming down and she's getting right. Like, time changes here this Sunday. Like, me and a lot of the local guys, we're all texting. Like, this lake is as much as I just made it sound like hell. It's always like anymore. The fish wait till the big tournaments leave to show what it can do, and I'm okay with that, right? I mean, obviously, I get it. People want exposure for the lake. It brings blah 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 blah. But for fish sake, I like it when we all like, we have a thing here. We always say we got our lake back because all the big tournaments are pretty much done except for the local stuff, and I think it's gonna get dumb. The frog bite's gonna get scary. They're gonna start swallowing the jig. It's gonna be a lot of mode over reeds and frog explosions in our near future, and I am so ready for it. So conditions are gonna get good. The lake's dropping. The water's gonna clean up. The wind is hopefully going to start laying down as we get into that springtime. And the wind we do get is going to be coming from that same southeast, easterly direction. Shouldn't be as, those 20 to 25 mile an hour winds should be down to those 5 to 10s, maybe some 15s. Lake's we might start getting a little bit of rain to get those little afternoon storms, cool that water down a little bit. So it's going to get right. I'm not, and this is not me trying to pitch you. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think I'm booked up until May, and I only have a few dates open in May. If you want to get dates in May, you got to shoot me, and we'll get into that actually in a second, but get them in soon because I'm marking off specific days in May just for me to go fishing, just randomly on my calendar because it's my favorite month. So if you want to get out here and try to catch some big ones on a frog, a big swim bait, the spook, for all, flipping, let me know. Which leads us into my next thing. I think I've hinted at this before, and maybe I hinted on it in just a recent video, but when it comes to booking a trip with me, if any of you people are dumb enough and desperate enough to need to go fishing that you actually want to give me your hard-earned money, I still cannot believe people do that on a daily basis. I am very blessed, and thank you guys. Like, when I shake your hand when you get off my boat and say I really appreciate it, thank you. I feel like that's what every guide in the industry is supposed to say, but I truly mean it. Thank you. Like, I look at how much money someone hands me, and I think about all the things you can buy or do or what things cost anymore. what bills that can pay. And they're taking that money and handing it to me to take them fishing and tell them stories and run them around this lake. It's still crazy to me. So thank you. But if you want to get out on the water with me, text me. I'm not saying I double booked. I've had some very, very close instances as of late. A married man, the wife who works 4 jobs as well. We're running around. We got 2 kids. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're doing the stuff with and I'm just making excuses right now. But I'm making like a pact with myself that I'm pretty much not answering the phone. And the reason is I want everything in text form so that there are no mistakes made. Me and a bunch of my other guide buddies have been talking about this. You call and say, I want Wednesday the 1st. I'm just making up a date. Well, the 1st comes, we call you, it's or you thought you said Wednesday the 1st. I just hear 1st of April, May, whatever it is. And it looks like Wednesday is actually the 2nd. Tuesday's the 1st. Well, you were more stuck on Wednesday. So, things like that happen. I tell you, I'm going to, put whatever, like, yeah, let me check the dates. And so there's just a lot of he said, she said, there's a lot of miscommunication. So I really want everything in text form. And here's the biggest thing. After you do text me, there might be a day, 2 or 3. Sometimes I'm hoping it's an hour, but that it takes me to get to your text. Because the main reason for this right here, this new little office room that we put up, is my schedule book is sitting right here and it does not leave this room. And I'm not clicking on a text from someone that I don't know or a number or whatever when I am not sitting in front of the book. Because what happens is I'm out on the water, like my guy catches a 7-pounder on a frog. Someone texts me, hey, how you doing? Dude, my dude just got crushed on it. Bloop, bloop. Do you have this available? And I click it, I'll let you know, and or I click it and I go, oh, someone's looking for a date, I'll get back to them. And then I continue my text, and then I forget to get back to you, right? That's not right to you. It's not good. It's not good business for me. Or I'll text you back, tell you I'll get back to you. Next thing I know, it's a few days. I forgot. You've already booked someone. That turns out I had the date open. Then you say, oh, well, like I want to get, or, I've just had some things happening, right? Or mess ups. And it's not on your guys' end, obviously. It's all on me, but I want to prevent that happening. Like, I have people getting on planes, getting hotel rooms to fly across the country to come here and fish with me. And the last thing I want is they show up. It's like, oh, I didn't have you in the book, or, I'm at, or I've already got people booked that day. Like, we never confirmed through text. I mean, there's just a million different scenarios that can happen. So you can call, and in my voicemail, it says, please send me a text message. I'm probably going to end up redoing my voicemail. I want everything. So I have dates with days. I have it all in writing. It's the way to do it. It just prevents things from happening. So that's what I'm asking you. If you want to book a day with me, text me, and it might be a day or two, because I don't want that little blue dot, that little, even when I pin texts, which I've done all that. I know all the stuff you can do with an iPhone now. I want it so that when I come back off the water, or maybe I don't get to it that night, maybe it's the next day, I come in here, I shut these doors that you guys cannot see behind my camera right now, but my kids are watching whatever they're watching, and they're distracted, and I can go through these texts, read them where I'm not rushed. I'm not like running in here before I go somewhere looking, yeah, I have the 24th of March open, and then come to find out I was on the May page in my book. It's not rough, and it's just going to prevent a lot of things from happening. So that was my kind of vent. So just bear with me on that. I'm terrible at this. I'm a one man band here. Like I don't, there's other guide organizations that they have people that book their trips for them. That is that person's sole job, is to hold the scheduling for these other guides. There's other guides whose wives do their booking, and that's awesome. That's great. My wife's running around more than I am with trucking companies and moving animals and all the stuff she's doing. So it's all on me, and I do take that. That is the most stressful part of my job. Putting you on fish. Listen, at the end of the day, it's fishing. Like I tell a lot of these up and coming guides, you fish out here every day, and there's days we zero. There are days that we zero. It can happen. We don't want it to happen, but we're gonna do everything in our power to put you on the fish as best as we can. But there's only so much we can do. I have that in the back of my head. I take it very seriously, but the part of my job that I take the most serious is the booking, because you don't want people coming in and then they don't have a fishing guide. So bear with me on that. Last and not least, the Sano Sticks, not these Sano Sticks, the Big O rod from Sano Sticks is available. It's a flipping rod that I worked with Alex on for quite some time now to develop. I say develop, like I gave him an idea of what I wanted. When he got to it, I said it in my last video. I wanted to film this whole thing that we tested thousands of blanks and went through rigorous testing, and that's just not what happened. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I told him what I was looking for. He said, I have an idea. I have something I can do. He didn't even explain it to me because the man's busy. A few months go by. I don't even know how long it was. I say a few months. It might have been 8 months at this point. He said, I want you to come see something. Shows me a blank. I said, I think this is it. But it's hard to tell you. All right, well, if you think it's it, I'll build it out. The man builds it out. Before he builds it out, he says, what are you thinking grip wise? What do you think about this? What do you bounces ideas off me? We go over all that, sit down, plan everything out. He goes, all right, I'm going to build one. Builds it out, and I did test it. I mean, I tested it rigorously. I mean, I fished it, and he was mad at me. It was like, I cannot find anything I'd change. I just can't. He told me I was going to. He's like, I want to make it right. I literally couldn't find anything I would change. It does everything you're going to need to flip on Lake Okeechobee, flipping wise. I'm talking like you can flip fluorocarbon on it. You could flip a Senko style bait with like a quarter, whatever, 5/16 ounce weight. You can, but it is designed for your half to your ounce and a half, whether you're flipping a mat, whether you're pitching isolated reeds, whether you're flipping a 3/4 ounce jig. It literally does it all, and it does it perfectly. Underline that 3 times in bold with the little stars. It is the best flipping rod I've ever used. It is awesome. It's got the best components you can put on there. It's got the recoil guides. It's just, again, I told Alex, I'm like, if I'm building a rod for myself, but I want to offer it to my customers and I want to offer it, and what's going to make it different is like, if you only can get one flipping rod, this will do it. Like this will do everything. And he's like, okay, I think I have an idea. He kind of has a blank that's kind of a special blend. It is perfection is the only way I can describe it. Seriously. So they're on the site. If you guys want to check them out, if you're in the market for an awesome flipping rod, check it out. It's called the Big O. I cannot be any happier with the thing. And that's why I'm kind of in this bad mood is I want to go flipping. I want to go use the rod, but the conditions are just not allowing me to, at least on the days that I'm off. On top of that, all their products, like what Alex, Sam, and Jen are building over there, it's really special. It is. They're working their asses off. They are, I get mad at Alex for caring too much. Like I broke a tip on one of my rods the other day. It was my fault. I did something totally user error. And I bring the rod to him and say, can you just put a new tip on this? Because the action and the way where it broke, it wasn't going to alter anything. And I go there to pick it up, and he like wants to have a sit down meeting with me to make sure that my tip is if I'm perfectly happy with it. I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like he really does take his job super serious. Passionate is not even the word. But at the end of the day, these rods have his name on it, right? But he wants everything done right, and he wants it done perfect. And that's what you get when you get a rod from them. I went there to pick the rod up. Just walking into the shop, they enjoy what they do. They're putting their heart and soul into literally every single rod. The shop is like its own little vibe. You got Jen just answering all your emails, doing your social media, doing the graphic design. Sam and Alex are at the rod racks, like just epoxying. They got it going on, and there's big things coming for them, whether they know it or not. But if you guys want to check out any of their stuff, definitely go to sankosticks.com. Made in the USA, made by fishermen. It's a big thing. Alex is constantly tweaking, and he fishes as much as any of us tournament fishes. Great dude. Will walk you through anything you need. One thing I will ask, I've had a lot of customers buying rods from them, and it's great. And thank you guys. Support a local business, but be patient. Like, not that none of you have, but this isn't a rod where it's like, oh, okay, checkbox. They go to the shelf, they pull it out of the box that 8,000 came in from overseas and put it in a thing and ship it to you. That's what you're accustomed to. This doesn't work like that. They put their hands on every single rod. Everything has to be done by hand. So like, it's not like I bought it today. Why hasn't it shipped yesterday? That's not how this works. It's a totally different product. And I think a lot of people just aren't familiar with it. It's no one's fault, but just be patient with them. They're very good about keeping you updated with updates when the rods are going to go out, how far back behind they are. Some days they put in 3 22-hour days in a row. Literally, like, I feel like Alex sleeps in the shop and he knocks out a bunch of rods. And then if it works out that you order, a BTO at this right time, he might be able to get it out to you in a few days, but sometimes it's a few weeks or maybe it's a month. They're busy. They're not ghosting you. You're going to get your product. They are going to take care of you. Can't talk highly enough about the rod. So if you guys want to try one, check them out. You can use code TIGHTSPLICE at checkout. I think it saves you 10%. But just support a local and an American-made company, and even just the best people you could ever deal with. So that's it. That's my little sponsor plug, I guess. But I have yet to send a customer to them. I took that gentleman, Glenn, and nicest human being you'll ever meet. But he just, actually, I had to bring him. I met Alex and Jenna at the Elite weigh-in to pick up rods to bring on the boat so that Glenn can fish with them. He already had rods from them prior, but he ordered 2 more. And he just raved about the rods the whole time. They're built right, and it's awesome. So I love hearing that. That's it. I actually made little notes for this video. So I'm out of notes. I want to go to bed. I got to be up in the morning. So I appreciate you guys watching. Seriously, like, as much as I appreciate you guys, like I said, help purchasing rods and supporting Alex and Jenna and Sam's business over there. Thank you guys for supporting mine. I appreciate, like I said, all the comments, all the subscribers. I don't do this for clicks. I think that's the problem in the fishing industry anymore, is everyone's in it for clicks. They don't care what the title says. They don't care if it's clickbait. I always say, like, I'm not on YouTube to make money. I'm on YouTube for advertisement, so that you pay your hard-earned money to me to take you fishing. This is just advertisement. I make $100 a month. All right, that ain't doing nothing. So I keep it as real as I can with you guys, and a lot of you seem to like that. That's kind of what I like is what, like, if I say something negative, especially about Lake Okeechobee, right? Like I just said, like the lake looks like hell right now. People appreciate that because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that don't listen to the lake's fine, and because most people would think maybe someone in my shoes would do that because talking bad about the lake's hurting my business. Um, but it's the truth, and I don't know. I mean, I just when I take you people on the boat, we might be catching fish, but I try to tell them like this is what this used to look like. Because I want the more people that are aware that Lake Okeechobee's hurting, and those same people, like they might come out and catch their PB with me, and I don't want to rain on their parade, right? But I just do my best to educate the entire process, and like they might go out and have the best day of fishing they ever had out there, but then they wonder like how much better could it have been if people left the place the hell alone, you know? Um, but either way, what I was saying is I didn't do this. I don't want to be a huge YouTuber. It just blows my mind that this many people actually click on my videos and stuff. So thank you, thank all of you, and I'll just keep doing them. I'm not going to change. I'm just going to keep doing these same old fishing videos. And we got some cool stuff. Like I said, I've been slacking on the actual fishing videos due to me being busy from you guys, which is crazy. We got some tournaments coming up. We'll be doing some maybe fishing some other lakes. We'll be doing some more saltwater videos. We'll be doing some little stuff here and there. And again, my saltwater videos, my snook videos, they get absolutely no traction. People, my followers are bass people, which I appreciate. But I like making videos for me too. I just like making them and putting them out. So you guys will see a little bit of a hodgepodge of things coming up. But either way, I appreciate the support. I appreciate all of you guys clicking on. And I'm going to go to bed. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Tight lines and be safe out there.